Hi, my name's Anne and I'm a Unity Physiotherapy and Wellbeing in Lincoln. I wanted to do a video about my book today, which is called Dancing Through Life, A Guide to Living Well, and looks like that. So I thought I'd do a quick video to explain a little bit about why I wrote the book, how it's structured and how it can be helpful. So it's a wellbeing book. It covers many different aspects of wellbeing, and the reason I wrote it could be summarised with the intention to be helpful, to help others, to reach more people than I can do in clinic on a daily basis, and connected to the purpose of helping people live well and do what matters most to them, and to be able to do that and keep doing that. So I saw it as a resource in many ways, so for people to use who are suffering and struggling with things like persistent pain, fatigue, anxiety and chronic stress, as a resource for clinicians themselves to help them look after their well-being, for clinicians to learn more strategies to help the people they work with, or to recommend as a resource for people they work with, for anyone interested in self-development and well-being in general. So in many ways I saw it as a resource for people, and I hope it's turned into a wonderful resource. I feel that it has. The feedback that I'm getting is reflecting that. The feedback to me personally and the Amazon reviews are very much appreciated. It has shown that the work and the effort and the time have absolutely been worth it. So thank you very much for anybody that has written any Amazon reviews or taken the time to feedback. Very much appreciated. If you have read it and you can do an Amazon review, that would be great. It's a mammoth amount of work writing a book. It's so much more work than I could ever have imagined, and my intention and purpose behind writing the book kept me going when obstacles appeared, when I could have given up. There was a couple of occasions when I could have given in, and I'm very pleased I didn't. So as I say, it's a wellbeing book. There are many different chapters that are all interlinked. So some of the chapters are compassion, stress management, exercise and movement, and sleep. There's a wellbeing framework I developed called the Paces and Sims. And the Paces and Sims has an infographic, which I'll show you in a second. And the intention isn't that people use the whole framework at one time, although you can, of course. It can be overwhelming to look at everything and think, oh, I've got to do all of that. You pick one or two things to focus on for a day or a week. So it might be, okay, this week I'm going to set an intention every morning. There's one of the parts of the framework is intention. Or maybe today I'm going to be mindful of the language I'm using for myself, because in the framework that's two things, that's mindfulness and communication. So and self-talk, so actually it's three things, because self-talk is a form of communication. So you can use that in any way you choose. Compassion and compassionate awareness are a foundation of that framework, which I don't think I actually specified in the book. But compassionate awareness is really a foundation upon which to build all well-being, and how we can function as effectively as possible each day. So this framework, as I say, the Paces and Sims, it has an infographic, and it didn't until the book was at final draft form. Neil Pearson, who's a fellow physio and a yoga therapist, he kindly read the whole book and he wrote the foreword in the book as well. And some of his feedback was really instrumental in shaping the book in its final stages, and he suggested having a diagram or infographic for the Paces and Sims. And I was going to pass that to a graphic designer, but before I did, I had a flash of inspiration and I was able to doodle a diagram, which then Wayne Thornton from Balance Designs did a wonderful job of digitalising and creating a graphic and creating icons for the book, some of which are on the front cover. So this is the Paces and Sims infographic, and as you'll see, there's a reflection there, and you'll see those icons throughout the book as well. So the acronyms, the Paces and Sims, is that the words, the first letter of each word of the Wellbeing Framework goes into a letter of the PACEs and SIMs. I will give examples to help that make more sense. So the PACEs are made up of 6 P's, 3 A's, 6 C's, 3 E's, 3 S's, an I, and 3 M's. So examples from this wellbeing framework of the 6 P's are practice, and patience, and persistence. The persistence has a silent F, which is mentioned in the book because it's flexible persistence rather than a stubborn and a pushing. The 3 A's, some examples would be action and awareness. The 6 C's examples could be compassion and curiosity. 3 E's examples, exercise and explore. The SIMs are made up of 3 S's, an I and 3 M's. The S's examples are sleep and self-talk. An I is intention. And M's examples would be mindfulness, meditation and movement. So the icons reflect each of those bits, and that infographic is in different places in the book. It's at the end of a number of chapters as a reminder. It also has a table of more explanation about it, and that's split up into the 6 P's, 3 A's, so there's a table for each bit of it, so you can pick a different aspect to work on. And as you probably noticed when I held it up, it's quite a big book, and some people are going to love that amount of information and some are not. And again, Neil, when he read it, he picked up on that and suggested sort of creating some summaries that could be helpful for people that don't want that amount of information. So there are bullet points at the end of each chapter, and it's a very practical guide, the book. So there are exercises in each chapter to do. So if you're someone that doesn't like a lot of information, you can do the practices, you can read a bit of the information that's in the chapter, and you can use the summaries. If you're somebody that loves the information, then you're going to read probably the whole thing and use the summaries and do the practices. And the hope is that it's a book that you can pick back up and do the practice again, or read something again, or read the summary again. It's hopefully a book that you'll keep returning to. I'll show you an example of what the exercise box look like and what the summaries look like. Just click and find some. So that's some of the breathing exercise ones. So not the easiest page to have shown you, but anyway, they have a butterfly at the top of the box. I'll probably find one that's not on 2 pages, would be easier. There we go. Let's get hold of that. There. So that's an example there, butterfly at the top of the exercise box. And then a summary is just our literally bullet points. That's the end of the first chapter. So what I would like to do is read a little bit from the compassion chapter. I'll just read a couple of different parts, and then also in the book are some poems that I've written at various points in life, and I'd like to read one of those because naturally we all have different parts, and naturally a part of us that can get quite loud is our self-critic, because it's how our brains are wired. It's part of our protection mechanisms, and we can calm that self-critic with self-compassion, and we can motivate ourselves as effectively with self-compassion, if not more so, and we don't get the drawbacks that we get with the self-criticism. So I would like to read a bit from the compassion chapter. It's got a bit dark in here actually because it's a bit dreary outside, so I may just be about to squint at this, but anyway, we'll have a go. So, as mentioned a little earlier, it is important to acknowledge when you are struggling from a place of curiosity and compassion. It's important to gently acknowledge that things are challenging, that you are finding it tricky, as well as connecting to knowing that we all struggle in some way, the common humanity. And then offer yourself an act of compassion. This can help you to let go of the struggle, and it stimulates the parasympathetic nervous system. Remember, when we are struggling, the threat system is hyperactive. It can also help you to be fully present and take wise action to make helpful changes. Self-compassion in itself can be the wise action. There are mincing my words. There are some self-compassion practices in this chapter, and some, if not all, of the compassion resources at the end of this book also include self-compassion practices. So when you notice and acknowledge you are struggling or suffering, offer care to yourself with a simple act of compassion. A few examples of this are breathing with a hand or both hands on your heart, crossing your arms over your heart and placing your hands on your opposite upper arms to give yourself a hug with a focus on a soothing rhythm breath. There is a reminder of this in Appendix 3. Stroking your hand or arm, this could be part of giving yourself a hug. Or focusing on a few breaths as you repeat a mantra. So we'll pause there, and some of the things mentioned there is a hand on the heart. I do that quite a lot. 2 hands on the heart. Giving yourself a hug, and also you can gently move your hands slowly. That's very soothing. You can maybe sort of stroke the back of your hand slowly. There are lots of ways to connect to that soothing and that self-compassion, giving yourself a moment to pause. It can be helpful to time your mantra with your breathing. For example, I am enough as you inhale, I am safe as you exhale. And a lovely mantra that I like to use with people and use myself sometimes is just this is enough. Which is from Shelley Posco and Neil Pearson in 2015. That's the reference. There are a few more examples of self-compassion affirmations in Appendix 2. I heard a lovely mantra during an online yoga practice with Ruth Barber from Lazy Beautiful Dream Yoga this year, which resonated with me. It's one I've chosen to remember and use. This is the mantra. I am exactly where I need to be. I am nurtured by the earth. My body supports me with its strength. And the source of that is unknown. We'll just read a couple of questions from the start of the next paragraph, which is, how do you relate to yourself when you've messed up? What are you saying to yourself? Do you often react with self-criticism, frustration or anger, or with non-judgmental acknowledgement and exploration of the options? Which is most helpful? Commonly, self-criticism gets used. It's normal. Remember, our brains are wired this way. You may have used unhelpful language for a long time. We all have language habits. Have a go at something as simple as changing your tone of voice and see what happens. So I'm not going to read any more other than the poem. Here's an example of where the little icon shows up. So when there's a relevant place, it'll be relevant to the paragraph or what's just been said. And then that's followed by an exercise. There's also these, I forgot to mention, little word diagrams. They're little summaries of key points around the theme. So they're self-care practices, and they're things like self-care can be compassionate self-talk, giving yourself permission to be imperfect, Self-care is not necessarily an extra thing to do. It shouldn't be on your to-do list. It is a way of being, and it might sometimes be an extra thing, like having a spa day or something like that. That absolutely might be part of self-care, but it's what we do on a daily basis, and those simple things, awareness practices or compassionate imagery, or connecting with nature, those things are important. So I'm just going to read this poem, which is one I wrote, called Be Your Most Wonderful You. And I think it's quite appropriate for us all, and particularly perhaps right now with all the uncertainty, and then also the time of year it is, because we're coming up to Christmas time, and that self-critic can get a little bit loud. Be your most wonderful you. Be you, as that's the most wonderful you. Trust in your you even when you're feeling blue. Follow your heart, your feet and your head, for they will not take you anywhere you cannot tread. Find balance in breath, body and mind, for they are inextricably entwined. Be you, as that's the most wonderful you. Join hearts and minds, one of a kind within the same kind, all connected and entwined. Join hands and unite with your you, all hearts and minds entwined with your most wonderful you. Breathe and be, shining through your authentic you. So I'm going to leave that there. It's ended up being a longer video than intended. I'm hoping it's been useful. On the back of the book you'll find a couple of the reviews, and also there on the first few pages as well. So if you read the book, I hope that it's interesting, enjoyable and helpful, and any feedback is very much appreciated. All right, take care.